So greetings from Pennsylvania once again. It's time for another campfire chat. I'm doing some camping here in Weiser State Forest right near Port Clinton, not too far from the Cabela's or the Bass Pro Shops. So I thought I'd take advantage of our setting here since I'm going to have a campfire anyway tonight. I have a little bit of time to spare here in the evening before I get supper going and stuff, so why not have a little, do one of the little campfire chats. Well, we got the fire going there. A little bit smoky right now, but I just got started, so it'll be less smoky a little bit later. It's gonna be a chilly evening. The sun is still up though. Alright, let's get into the video though. So we've done several of these campfire chats already, but this will be the first one that actually deals with what most of the topics on my channel are about, hiking and camping. I think the other two I didn't really have a whole lot to do with hiking and camping, but they're just things that were important in my life and things I felt like sharing. But this will be the first one that deals with the topic of my channel. So it's a video on some tips for hiking and camping. Probably not going to be your typical video that you find on YouTube on this subject. To be honest, I don't really like most of the videos on this topic. I find them to be a bit annoying. I'll talk about that in a little moment though. And not to step on anybody's feet in this video, but like I said, I'm not a big fan of those videos. A lot of those videos are made by people, who consider themselves to be pro hikers or pro campers, and they kind of look down on people who do things differently sometimes. It's a lot of times when it comes to hiking and camping, it's your own opinion. You can do things your own way. Sometimes people have the idea that their way is the only way, but you can watch 10 different videos on like hiking and camping tips, and they'll all have slightly different ideas of how you should camp or hike. Just because someone's they kind of this idea that their opinion is the only one that matters. So that kind of bothers me sometimes, to be honest. And one other thing you need to consider when it comes to hiking and camping is that there's all different types. There's not just one type of hiking or one type of camping. So when someone's giving advice, what are they giving advice for? So what in the world do I mean by that? Well, for example, when it comes to hiking, are you just going out, we're just talking about like a day hike on one end, or on the other end of the extreme is you're doing like a through hike where you're hiking you're spending 5 months, you're going to hike the whole Appalachian Trail, all 2,000 miles of it, day after day after day. Those are very different things. So advice for one of those doesn't necessarily apply for the other one. I mean, there are some crossovers in that, but somebody who's going on a day hike doesn't necessarily need to hike like they're hiking the whole Appalachian Trail, and vice versa. And then there's everybody in between too. There's the section hikers, people are just backpacking for a night or two, things like that. It's a whole different, so that's one thing to keep in mind too. And the same with camping. Are you pulling up in your RV or your big camper trailer, or are you going to spend like a week doing primitive camping out in the wilderness somewhere? They're both camping. They are both camping. I'll get to that later. But they're very different things. So advice isn't really necessarily, when I'm saying you're giving advice for one, it doesn't necessarily apply to the other all the time. So one example of that would be, I have a friend or someone I know who hiked the Appalachian Trail, all of it, like years ago. He's up in his 70s now, so this was years ago. But he gets on my case for a lot of my videos, a lot of my hikes and camping. I wear jeans, I wear a lot of cotton, and he gets on my case. It's cotton kills, cotton kills. And most through hikers don't wear cotton-based clothes because when cotton gets wet, it doesn't dry real quickly, and it doesn't keep you warm either when it's cold. Like wool, if wool gets cold, it still keeps you warm. So if you're hiking this whole Appalachian Trail, you don't necessarily want to wear cotton for that reason if you get wet. But if you're just doing a day hike, which is a lot of what I do, it doesn't really matter. I'm going home at the end of the day. I don't have to worry about spending the night in wet jeans or something like that. So he's taking the through hiker hiking advice and throwing it at me for just a day hike, and I understand what he's saying, but it doesn't necessarily, if that makes sense. Sometimes the advice doesn't match for both. That's something to keep in mind when you're listening to somebody giving you advice. So that is my first piece of advice, is just to be careful when you're listening to other people give advice, including me. Just realize that, just because they're a hiker or a camper doesn't mean their advice necessarily applies to you. You got to consider their situation and what their advice is for. And you don't have to take their advice either. Because the reality is, even the pros disagree on what the best thing to do is. Like when people go backpacking or hike the whole Appalachian Trail, some people swear by, using a hammock that you hang between two trees. That's what you gotta use. You gotta use this. Other people use one of those smaller backpacking tents that fits in a backpack. and they both would tell you, they'll both make videos, 10 reasons why you should use a hammock, or 10 reasons why you should only use a backpacking tent. They give you their reasons, and they're pros, and you should listen to them. Well, you can listen to them, but you can decide what you want to do. And I've seen through hikers who started the Appalachian Trail with a hammock, and later on they switched to a backpack and vice versa. Sometimes they switch their own gear on themselves because they change their mind later. So just keep that in mind too. And advice number 2, it's okay to change your mind. You can go out and get a hammock and realize it's not for you, and get a backpacking tent, or vice versa. It's okay to change your mind. I've changed gear a number of times of different things, and as I camp more or hike more, you kind of, you find better things that are more suited to your needs, because we're all different in what our comfort levels are and things we need and things like that. We all disagree. We all have our own opinions, and that's okay. And as well, on that same note, try not to let it get to you when people tear you down for your way of hiking or for your way of camping. I get that a lot from people, like some people make fun of me for camping like this. Oh, yeah, that's not camping. You need to go out in the woods for, 2 weeks, and sorry, the smoke's coming to my eyes here. And live off the land, kill your own deer. Keep the smoke. Let me get back to you in a moment. Or start a fire with just rubbing sticks together and stuff. If you want to camp like that, that's fine. But if you want to camp like this, that's also okay. If you want to buy a big RV or a camper trailer, that's the way you want to camp, it's fine. People might make fun of you for doing it, but that's your way of camping. Same with hiking. Sometimes I make a video where I go on a 6-mile hike, and then I get people, you call that a hike? I did 20 miles the other day. Good for you, but that was my hike. I had a 6-mile hike planned. I did it. I enjoyed it, and that's okay. You don't have to. It's just you're gonna get people who are gonna criticize you for the way you do things, and just try not to let that get to you. That can be hard sometimes, especially if you make videos or things like that. But just do things the way you want to do it. Ease yourself into it, especially if you're a beginner, and just do things the way you want to do it. As long as you're getting out and enjoying the outdoors, do it your way. And that leads into another piece of advice. If you're thinking about it, just get out there. Just get out there. Just start hiking, start camping. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just get out there. Even if you just, if your idea, especially if you're a beginner, even if it's just a 1-mile hike, just go out, just get started. Because to be honest, we all do that. We all plan on doing things, think about doing things, but we keep making excuses. The weather's not going to be perfect, or maybe I should wait, maybe something bad will happen, blah blah blah. My advice is just get out there. Be careful and do things the right way, but just quit making excuses and just get out there and try it. All right, maybe time to get into a little bit more practical advice. I'll probably be jumping around a lot in this video advice wise. I kind of ramble sometimes, but being underprepared versus being overprepared, you can be both. It's quite easy. I've seen both in my travels and different things of talking with people. So on the underprepared side of things, if you watch my videos, I always have a backpack with me. Over the years, I bring less with me on a hike. When I first started hiking, I brought all kinds of survival stuff in my backpack because I thought it was kind of cool too. But I realized at some point I didn't really need all that stuff in it. But there's still stuff that I make sure is in my bag. Even if I don't always use it, it's there. Like a med kit. I always have a little medical kit in my bag in case I or someone else I'm with needs a little bit of, has a scrape or a scratch or needs to bandage up, things like that. But one example being underprepared, years ago I was down in Virginia. Actually, I wanted to pick up my kayak. A viewer gave me a kayak. I think his name was Jason. Shout out to Jason there. But I also hiked what's called McAfee Knob. It's one of the most popular spots on the Appalachian Trail for photography. And Jason was a search and rescue dude. And he told me that the biggest thing that they have to search and rescue for people on that section of trail is for dehydration. So the trail to McAfee Knob it's about 4.5 miles to get there. You can take the trail, or there's a dirt road that leads out that way too, part of the way. But it's also 4.5 miles back. And the day I did it, it was almost 90 degrees. And when I got to the top, I kind of looked around at some of the people and watched other people as they arrived. And there were people arriving with almost nothing. There were people who hiked it in flip-flops and had absolutely no water with them. And it reminded me of what Jason had said, that their main reason they have to rescue people on that section of trail is for dehydration. And why in the world would you do a 9-mile round trip hike without bringing any water along? That doesn't make any sense at all. or hiking in flip-flops. I know. And that's going to lead into another piece of advice a little bit later. Don't try and be a hero, but yeah, don't be underprepared. I always have something to drink in my bag. Snacks, there's always snacks in there. Snacks are a great thing to have along. Just sit and take a break and have snacks. Or if you do get lost or end up being out in the woods longer than you expected to for those reasons, it's great to have those snacks. And I try to even have extra water along just in case for that thing too. I might talk a little bit later about other things to have in your bag, but yeah, always don't be underprepared. But on the flip side of that, you could also be over-prepared. Sorry if the guy who made this video is watching this, but I watched the fellow. I didn't watch the whole video because it kind of drove me nuts, but there was a fellow just hiking in a state park. Maybe doing like a day hike, and his backpack was massive. It was bigger than, he had more stuff with him than even the thru hikers take. They're living out in the woods for 5 months. He had a whole sleep system with him. He had a med kit that was like this big, like strapped to his leg, like big. I mean, he was, I don't know how many pounds his backpack weighed. All he was doing is going for a couple miles a day hike, but he said, oh, you can't be too prepared. I'm thinking to myself, yes, you can be too prepared. If you're just going on a day hike, you don't need to bring all that stuff along. Especially if you're just going to be in a state park where there's other people. If you need help, you can just pull out your phone and just call for help. So I see people who bring way too much along on a hike too. So you can be both underprepared, as far as smoke in my eyes again, or overprepared. Try to find a balance for what it is you're trying to do. And that balance might change for you over time too. Like I said, it did for me. I bring less along than I used to, and that's okay to change your balance as you kind of learn what you need to take along and what you don't. It's okay to, like I said before, it's okay to change your mind about things. And as I just mentioned earlier, don't try and be a hero either. You don't need to. Hiking and camping it's not a competition. It's not about trying to impress everybody with how rustic your situation or how many miles you hike. I come across channels like that. I might talk about one in just a moment, but especially if you're a beginner hiker, don't try to do a 10-mile hike on your first hike. You're not going to enjoy it, and then you're probably never going to go hiking again. Just if you're a beginner, just start slow. It's okay just to go for a 2-mile hike or less. If you're camping for the first time and you don't want to do anything overly rustic, it's fine. Just ease yourself into it. You don't have to be a hero. Like I said, you don't have to, like I mentioned, that whole McAfee Knob Trail. You don't have to hike 9-mile round trip in 90 degrees without any water just to prove yourself to other people. That's kind of, you don't try to do that kind of stuff. Same thing, I just see that a lot. People, like I said, are trying to be a hero, trying to impress people with what they do. And I don't think that's what hiking and camping is about. I think it's just about enjoying the outdoors rather than trying to make yourself better than other people, if you understand what I'm saying. Because years ago I came across a channel, I'm not going to mention the channel, but it was kind of interesting. He did a lot of hiking out like in Colorado and stuff. There's really tall, like 14,000 foot mountains, but he was always like boasting and bragging about how fast he could get to the top, compared to other people. He was like just making fun of people. Like he could get to the top in like 2 hours, but look at these people, it took them 5 hours. And then when he got to the top of the mountain, he would make fun of people that took a break at the top of the mountain to enjoy, not only to take a break, but to enjoy the views. They're up there taking selfies of themselves and stuff. He was like making fun of them, and I don't know. And then he bragged about how he only spent 5 minutes at the top and then went back down again. I'm like, dude, that's not the point of hiking, If I'm gonna hike a 14,000 foot mountain out in Colorado, you bet I'm gonna take a break at the top. I'm gonna take a break up there for a while and enjoy the views, enjoy the, whatever you call it, the effort that it took to get up there. I don't know. It's not about being better than everybody else or making fun of. That's the other thing. Don't make fun of people that are taking longer than you or things like that. That drives me nuts when channels do that, or just people on the trail do that kind of stuff. That's why I smoke. I'm getting attacked by smoke all the time. Maybe I should move my chair. But I'm trying to get the right camera view here too. So anyway, yeah, don't put other people down. There's some different phrases that I've heard from other hikers. There's the smile. It should be smiles before miles, and not miles before smiles. So in other words, hiking shouldn't be always about how many miles you're getting, but how much you're enjoying it to smiles. A lot of people, it's all about pushing miles instead of actually enjoying the hike. But that can be difficult sometimes, because like if you are a thru hiker, sometimes you do have to make a certain number of miles each day. Because if you only hike 5 miles a day on the Appalachian Trail, it's going to take you forever to finish. So there are times where you do have to, I call, just hoof along and move along faster, and maybe not be able to enjoy as much as what's around you. But try not to get into that mentality too much. Try to enjoy your hike rather than, like I said, it should be more about enjoying the outdoors rather than how many miles you're making. And when it comes to the gear you pick, such as things like tents and other items, you get what you pay for. Let me repeat that. You get what you pay for. And that works with all kinds of things, like from hiking, from the shoes you wear to go hiking, from the gear you use, the backpacks. It's great to save money, but a lot of times the items that you're paying less for, there's a reason they cost less, because they're not going to last near as long. Unless you get something on sale or something like that. Because like when it comes to shoes, I know someone asked me recently where I get my shoes. I always get my shoes at the Cabela's that's right nearby here. I said earlier, near Port Clinton. Yeah, the brand I've been getting recently is called Merrell. The last pair I had lasted quite a while. There's a brand that they sell there. I'm not gonna mention the brand. I don't want to bust on anybody, but I've heard it's cheaper there. It's like half the price of the more expensive stuff. But I've heard so many bad reviews about it. People buy it because it's a cheaper shoe, but they just don't last. I don't know. So just keep that. I'm not telling you to spend like. I'm not telling you to spend like $200 on a pair of shoes, but just when things are cheap, they're usually cheap for a reason. But when it comes to prices and stuff, or if I'm about to buy something kind of expensive or things like that, before I buy it, I often find it on Amazon. I usually buy a lot of it on Amazon anyway, but I read the reviews to see what other people are saying about the item. That's usually gets they have a rating for it, like 1 to 5 stars, and that does tell you a lot about the item. And just read the reviews. Sometimes there's specific things that people mention about it that they don't like. They mention how long it lasts. I mean, you do have to be careful with those reviews sometimes, because not everybody that's reviewing the item is giving an honest review. Some people are misusing the item. They don't know how to use it or set it up. There's directions, but they don't follow directions, and then they complain that it doesn't work. So you got to be careful about that kind of stuff too. Just read the reviews. Make sure, how should I say this nicely, that when you read a bad review, make sure the person writing it isn't some kind of idiot that wasn't using it properly to begin with, because people do that. They, like I said, they don't read the directions or misuse it, and then they give it a bad review. But anyway, the reviews can really help you out when picking out items, especially if you're about to put down some money on something and you want to make sure that it's a good item. I just recommend, reading what other people have to say about it, and Amazon's a good place to do that. Another piece of practical advice is to check the weather before you head out, whether you're camping or hiking. Just double check, because that can really affect, obviously what you're going to be doing that day. If there's going to be a chance of rain showers and thunderstorms on a hike, bring one of those rain ponchos along, or rain gear, or I usually have like this little umbrella that I can stick inside. If I'm on a camping trip, I got to make sure I bring my canopy along, things like that. Always check the weather. Because like I said, I've made that mistake before where I've been out on a hike and all of a sudden there's thunderstorms blowing through, and I remember, I didn't check the weather before I left, and it's no fun just getting absolutely drenched on a hike. So check the weather. Also, let someone know where you're going to be, whether you're hiking or camping. I write down where I'm going to be. I leave it on the kitchen counter, so someone always knows what my plans are, where I'm going to be, where I'm going to headed. So that way, if I don't come home, the authorities at least know where to start looking, so people aren't searching blind for you. Especially if you're going to be going somewhere a little bit more dangerous, or like on a longer hike in a wilderness area, backpacking overnight several days, somewhere more remote. It just helps to have people really know where you're going to be. Because like I said, it just really narrows down this search. Like if you end up really needing help somewhere, if no one knows where you went, it's gonna take them a whole lot longer to find you. It was just really bad if you're actually in a situation like where you broke your leg and you're the longer you're out there, the less your chances of surviving are. So just let people know where you are. That way they can at least start the search a lot quicker in your area where you actually are. It's good advice. So I'm not really sure how to word this one, but be careful about getting sucked into different fads and styles. We do that all the time in life. Going way back into high school, junior high, you got to dress a certain way, do a certain way. And the same thing can happen with hiking and camping. There's always new things coming out all the time, new gear, all kinds of new stuff, styles, and I call them fads, hiking and camping fads that everybody says you need to have. But just, you don't, or like, you can end up buying too much stuff, like on Amazon too. It's easy to sit at home on Amazon, scroll through stuff, look at all this hiking gear, look at all this stuff I can take camping, and you end up just buying way too much stuff. Just really consider whether do I really need this before you buy it, before you hit the order button. Like, do you really need this? 'Cause you'll see, especially if you watch videos of other people and stuff, you see all the cool gadgets they have and stuff. Just be careful. I think I watched a movie once where they spent, like, the husband spent, like, I guess they're going on a camping trip, and he spent like $10,000 on camping gear. I mean, it was just a movie, but it was kind of funny too. But at the same time, that happens in life. Maybe not $10,000, but people spend way too much money sometimes on stuff that they don't actually need. So just be careful about getting sucked into that trap. Yeah, we could go on and on and on with different types of advice. I might make a part 2 of this video, or do separate videos about what to bring along in your backpack or what to take along on a camping trip. We'll see. There's so much that be said on this topic. But as I mentioned earlier, we all have our own different ideas and opinions of how we should hike and camp, and it's okay, and that's okay. You don't have to, like I said, listen to just one particular person. You can do things your own way, things like that. Just keep that in mind. Especially if you are a newbie, getting into it. Like I said, just get out there and learn. You can learn from watching other people, but just, it's okay to maybe watch a variety of different people, listen to a variety, see what they have to say, and just find what works for you. You don't, yeah. Like I said earlier, just don't let people tear you down either. That's a big thing for me. I just get tired of watching videos where I don't like the thumbnail pictures of the videos where the guy, like, I'm the pro, and then they're pointing, or they're making a weird face at the guy behind him, like the newbie who isn't wearing the right clothing or things like that. Oh, that reminds me, I gotta tell you that story in a minute. I'll tell you that story. But yeah, just making fun of other hikers for not doing things, or campers for not doing things the way they do it, and I think that's wrong. So, but yeah, quite a few years ago, maybe like 5 years ago or so, I got an email from just this random viewer. It was like a list of 10 things. He said, I've watched a couple of your videos, and I feel obliged to give you some advice. I didn't ask this guy for advice, but he just gave all this advice to me on how he thought I should hike. He criticized everything about me, what I was wearing, my beard, hat, my hair. I think even my glasses. I don't know, everything he saw. The kind of backpack I was using. I think even the water bottle I was using. Everything I was doing was wrong to him, and he gave me his advice on how he thought I should, on how he thought I should hike. And I was just like, dude, like, what is this, And did I listen to anything you said? No, I think I just deleted it, I mean, if that's the way that he wants to hike, that's fine. But I'll do things my way, and I'm fine with the way I do things. So that's called unsolicited advice. When people just throw advice. I don't really like that kind of advice. When people just throw advice at you and you don't ask for it. That could be bad. Once in a while it can be good, though, to think of it, because sometimes sometimes you see someone has their backpack on wrong. Your backpack should be snug against your back rather than loose, and it just kind of help them out with that a little bit. If you do give advice to people, don't do it in an arrogant, smug, like, I'm a pro, I know better than you kind of way. Just be nice about it, help them out. That's their piece of advice. If you are a pro, if someone's been doing it for a while, it's cool to give advice, especially if you see someone doing something that isn't quite right. You don't have to be a jerk about it. People are more likely to listen to you then as well. But anyway, I think I got to bring an end to this video. I want to actually enjoy my camp here tonight too. I thought I'd quick make a video here. I might make a part 2 later, but I just want to kind of give some advice in this initial video. Yeah, so this video wasn't filled with a ton of like super practical advice. Like, I didn't really talk about what to bring in your backpack and things like that. I might do that in another video. Got a plane flying overhead. A lot of this advice is maybe a little bit more on the philosophical side of things, but I think it's important too. But anyway, I gotta wrap things up. I'll just keep rambling and rambling and rambling. But like I said, you feel free to comment below if you have your own advice, kind of on the same line as stuff I said. Like I said, I'll probably make some more practical videos a little bit later. But anyway, I want to get to camping. I'm hungry. I want to make some supper. So anyway, thanks for coming along in this little video. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one.